Hello, welcome to The Conversation on News Central Television. This is a program where we bring you up to speed with all the political happenings on the African continent. I am Benga Aborowa.
And I am Rita Omodia. Today on The Conversation, we're looking at situations in Nigeria where flooding in many Nigerian states, including the nation's biggest economy, Lagos, water is fast becoming the enemy. The rainy season has come with heavy floods, and in the face of poor or a total lack of environmental systems to prevent such calamities, Nigerians have become victims. We will be analyzing solutions and how to prevent future occurrences.
And also in the program today, the United Arab Emirates has reportedly announced a visa ban on nationals from 20 African countries seeking to visit Dubai with immediate effect. According to reports, one of the reasons given for the ban is that many who arrive on visit visas end up overstaying in the country illegally while working without legalizing their stay. Interesting developments happening across the continent, and I can't wait for us to jump inside some of this conversation.
Yeah.
What are the other trending political stories on the continent that we won't be able to treat today?
Well, on the African continent, we've had protests going on in Chad, in Sudan. I know in Chad, there are going to be peace talks. We saw Mohamed Idris Deby being sworn in as the transitional president, and we've seen lots of protests going on it.
And also in Guinea, against the military rule of Colonel Muhammadu Buhari, we've seen, I guess it's a protest season on the continent.
Definitely a protest season. A lot of people are calling for democracy. But right now, we start with situations in Nigeria where the massive flooding ravaging states across the country is now a major cause for concern for both the government and citizens. President Muhammadu Buhari has now given 90 days to the Minister of Water Resources to lead and coordinate with the Ministries of Environment and Transportation, as well as state governments, to develop a comprehensive plan of action for preventing flood disaster in Nigeria. The disaster has left many communities reeling under floods, with over 600 people dead and 2.5 million affected by Nigeria's flooding this year.
Now, the Nigerian Meteorological Agency said most state governments disregarded its forecast on impending flooding in the country, hence the havoc witnessed in the past few weeks. Kogi, Anambra, Kebbi, Delta, Bayelsa and Jigawa states have been part of the worst hit, where deaths have been recorded following the disaster.
You see on social media, I just laugh because they are misleading. Lagbo Dam releases the flood, its contribution to flood in this country is only 1%. Sometimes they release water without notice, and when they do that, it has impact on communities downstream. But it is not the main reason why we have flood in this country. 80% of the flows in this country is water that we are blessed with from God from the sky. This year's flood, I can assure you, we cannot blame it on Cameroon, to be sincere. Whether we're able to do that in Hausa or not, we'll continue to have floods on the river Niger and Benue basins. We signed the MOU with Cameroonian authorities. But since then, believe me, every year, once the flood season comes, it is the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency that calls them. What is your level in Lagdo? What is your level? Even this one, they told us when he called them, when he saw that the rains were, I was communicating with the DG NISA. I said, what's happening in Cameroon? He said he has been calling them. They said they have not released any water, but they said they will inform. They are the ones that should be keeping us informed on the basis of the MOU. They didn't.
To discuss this all-important issue is foremost environmental activist Dr. Desmond Maja-Kudumi. We also have Tokpek Gloria Olatunde Aedo, an environmental educationist with the University of Abuja. One welcome to you both, and thanks for joining us in the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'd like to start with you, Dr. Maja-Kudumi. You've been in this, you've been a foremost environmentalist for a number of decades now, and I'm sure you heard what the Honourable Minister of Water Resources said, that, you know, God is responsible for this flooding we've witnessed, and it's not because of the opening of a dam in Cameroon. What do you make of all of this, and what is responsible for this unprecedented level of flooding we've seen in many parts of the country?
We are responsible. And when I say that we, I'm not just referring to Nigerians alone. We, humanity, are responsible because we have been desecrating and damaging one of the most miraculous life support systems in the whole of the universe. So I'm talking of planet Earth's life support systems. Come on. We now have the ability to see hundreds of millions of stars and planets all over the cosmos. And this planet Earth is the only one that we have identified that has the capacity to support life. And the major reason why it has that capacity is the intricate, complex mixture of the gases in the atmosphere. When you look up in the sky, the reason it's blue is because there are gases there, particularly in this case, the gas which is called H2O, that's water vapor. So we humans, over the last, especially the last 150 years, have been pumping and pumping poisons and tons and tons, we're talking of hundreds of millions of tons of what they call greenhouse gases into the atmosphere and upsetting what is classified as a miraculous balance of these gases that keeps the Earth at a certain temperature. So we're warming up the Earth, that's causing climate change, and this is one of the direct manifestations of climate change where you have far more rain falling in short periods of time, and that will overwhelm any system, especially even the natural systems. And now we're wrecking the natural systems as the forests and the mangroves and so on. So definitely we're inviting the floods because action begets reaction. And nature is now reacting to what we have done to Earth. So we blame ourselves.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Majekodunmi. You've clearly highlighted some of the natural causes of this flooding coming up with climate change and the greenhouse gas emissions. But another issue that has been going on is this opening of the Lagdo Dam. Now, Gloria, there has been a blame game between the Nigerian government and the Cameroonian government on the opening of the dam. Now, the minister clearly said that sometimes they do not get notices on time. So can we actually blame this opening of the Lagdo Dam as a significant cause of the flooding, or is that a non-issue?
That's partly what it is. It's all a far greater manifestation of a huge human problem. And what is that problem? Is that we're not really taking the necessary care and consideration of each other. And, you know, this Lago Dam, Lajes, okay, they released the water a bit too quickly. We're supposed to build our own dam to counteract some of that. We're doing it far too slowly. You know, there's a gross lack of genuine care, compassion, and can I even use the word love for each other? And you see, this flooding, it's not just the flooding that's happening. There's desertification, there's fires. The flooding is happening all over the world, and it has been classified by the Secretary General of the United Nations as the biggest problem facing humanity, and that if we continue this way, we're going to push ourselves to an irreversible precipice. It is a really serious issue, and it's come about because of our refusal to just do the right thing, of our refusal to start caring far more for the creation, to start living in harmony with nature, to start looking after the environment and not considering what the environment really is. We call it environment. It is our life support system, okay? And it's our neighbor's life support system. It's our children's life support system. So the question is, what manner of love are we showing to our neighbors and our children if we are continuously wrecking their very life support system? We've been warned. We've been warned to stop this years and years ago. In 2015, All the world leaders got together in Paris and they ratified what they call the Paris Climate Accord. And we said, oh, we're going to stop polluting the atmosphere with this CO2 particularly. And guess what? By 2021, after agreeing to stop, the pollution had never been so high. And that's why the Secretary General of the United Nations said that we're pushing it to a tipping point, that this is suicidal. And that's the word he used. So it's an indication that we need to change. We need to have a serious transformation, reformation of our minds, and just, take a little bit more seriously the scripture that we all profess to follow, because it's very, very clear in all the scriptures, from the Holy Bible to the Holy Quran, to the Bhagavad Gita, to the Jewish sutras. It's all there, that we are here to replenish the earth, not to wreck it. Your father gives you the most wonderful, beautiful mansion for you and your children, and he says, okay, this is for you. You look after this, take care of it. And you say, Daddy, I love you. I praise you, Daddy. And then you start to wreck the mansion, and then you think your father will be pleased. That's why nature is hitting back. So it's a wake-up call. We got to do the right thing, cooperate far, far more with our Cameroonian brothers and sisters. We're all one family of earthlings.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Maja Kudumi. I'd like to bring in Gloria in Abuja. Dr. Maja Kudumi did stress on humanity's ability to study distant planets and even send manned mission to space. We've also made a lot of progress in infrastructure projects such as building of dams to provide electricity and also to cushion the effect of overflow of rivers. I'd like you to stress the importance of dams when it comes to mitigating the effects of flooding, especially in this part of the country.
Thank you once again for having me. It's a pleasure to actually talk about a topic that is a center point in my class. Is what I usually tell people almost on daily basis. There's no in a harmful way that you will not get the repercussion. You actually, whatever you give to the environment returns back to you. So talking about the mitigation aspect, the mitigation is actually trying to see how to prevent a disaster, for instance, the flood that we are talking about now. So in preventing the disaster, I think the number one way to do it, I have two major things to discuss here. I think number one way is for individuals to change their attitude toward the environment. They need to change the attitude, the way they think, the way they perceive the environment. In fact, some people they don't own the environment. It's just like you having a car. The way you take care of your house, that's the way you should be personal, taking care of your environment. So if you can treat the environment in a more caring manner, just as my senior colleague has said, that you need to know what it involves, what you do, the activities, the anthropogenic activities that you do on daily basis that harm the environment, that harm the atmosphere, that cause polar icing, that leads to flooding. Now, we cannot just be talking about the natural aspect of flooding, which is in cold caused by man, caused by God, I mean. But now, the one that we can actually undo, what are the things that we can actually prevent that is caused by man? There are so many things that are caused by man that we need to be able to prevent doing. We should stop doing it so that we can actually have a better environment. And one of it, just as I said, is by having a good attitude towards the environment. The second one is by creating awareness. Ignorance is not an excuse in this aspect. You cannot just be ignorant because in this case, lives are lost, properties are lost, so you don't just have you don't have an excuse to be ignorant. That's why you need to know more about this climate change that we keep talking about and what you do that exacerbates the impact of climate change, which is the flood that we are talking about, and the damages of drainages and dams. This is, in fact, is something that has been done, that we keep experiencing on a yearly basis, only that this year is exceptional.
Okay, Gloria, sorry to butt in there. You talk about ignorance. Now, Niman's DG said that there were warnings concerning this flooding, but yet the state government did not adhere to this. So can we actually also put the blame on the state government for not doing enough to avert this disaster?
Yes, the state government, that is still part of it. I'm not really talking about the individual now. It can also be the government. There's the creation of awareness. How has it been taken to the grassroots? Are the grassroots aware of the implications of what they are about to do? For instance, when you are releasing water from dam, I think they said that it's usually said they use through the radio or TV, they use it to sensitize people that there is going to be a release of water, which may necessarily lead to flood. But I feel there should be more. This is why we said that in schools, we should also encourage people. We should also teach people. We should inculcate, we should infuse climate change topic in our subjects from primary school. Let people start knowing the detriment. Then governments that can help, they should also come in the sense that don't just tell people that there will be flood. What are the measures that have been put in place? It's not that you are just saying, okay, there will be flood. Where are these people going to go? You are telling them to leave their house, to leave their businesses, to where? They need to meet their basic needs. They need to eat. Their basic need, the food, shelter, everything needs to be met. And they will just feel that, let me just try as much. So the government needs to come in more and give an actionable plan, like creating actionable plans on what to do. Don't just tell people to leave a place, tell them where to go and give them alternative. So I feel with that way to curtail the impact of climate change, such as flood.
Thank you, Gloria. Now, Dr. Majakudumi, Africa is one of the least polluters, yet it suffers from the worst effects of climate change. There was a climate adaptation summit in Rotterdam just a few weeks ago, and the only Western leader present there was the Dutch Prime Minister. The West keeps telling Africa not to use fossil fuels and to adopt renewable energy, but they're not helping us make that technological feat. So my question to you is, COP37 is coming up in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, just next month. What do these summits do? Are they just a talk shop? And how best can Africa present its case so people know that, look, there's a clear and present danger here, and Africa, as the least polluter, does deserve more attention and help in dealing with the climate crisis?
Yes, this is a very, very key and crucial question. And I love the response that my sister there was giving as well. There's hope. If we have people like her advocating the way that she's advocating, we need to live in harmony with the creation, with the environment, and we need to come together as brothers and sisters. Because if we don't come together at this conference in Africa, we won't be able to get the support that we require. We are one of the most vulnerable territories for this problem, okay? Nigeria is one of the most vulnerable areas for this climate issue. And if we don't come together and insist, and when I say come together, I mean, we as Nigerians, but the Africans, the West African subcontinent, we need to come together and demand reparations. We need to demand money that we're going to use to adapt, money that we're going to use to transform our energy sector, okay? And the Western world are actually ready to do that. We're getting very, very good, clear signals from people in the Western world, some of the big corporates and some of the big governments. There's billions of dollars that will be given to African nations and other vulnerable nations, but they have a bit of a challenge and they want to be sure that this money is used effectively. This is a turning point for humanity. It really, really is. This is now the time when we need to understand that nature will not take this anymore, okay? And there are some fundamental basic laws that are ruling nature, that are ruling us. You know, one of them is, if I can just lift up this palm kernel seed, I think you can see it here in my hand. This is what I grow in my farm, okay? Palm kernel seed. If I release it, it'll drop. Yes, of course, it has to drop because it has to obey the law of nature. Right. And here we have very, very quickly. I'll show you a coconut. Okay, that's coconut. But guess what? Aha! I've been planting this palm kernel for 25 years. I've never seen a coconut come out of the palm kernel, and I've never seen a palm kernel come out of the coconut tree because they are obeying fundamental laws that whatsoever you sow, you shall surely reap. It's in the scripture. It's the law of retribution. God is not mocked. It's there in all the scriptures. In the Bhagavad Gita, they call it the law of karma. In the Holy Quran, it's there. In the Holy Bible, it's there. And because we've been so contrary to following scriptural injunction, we're now getting the reaction. And believe you me, nature hasn't started hitting hard yet. This conference that's coming up in Egypt, it is one of the last chances for we in Nigeria, we in Africa, and we generally in the world to start getting it right. The scientists that predicted these floods, they predicted them over 35 years ago. But they said these kind of things would be happening in about 50 years. So they were wrong by about 10 or 15 years. It happened a lot sooner, and that's why they're panicking and telling us, humanity, change your ways. It can no longer be me, myself, I. Put profit ahead of people and planet. That profit is the most important thing, no matter what the consequences. Isn't that what the armed robber does? He's going for money and he destroys people. Okay, so we need to wake up. We need to go to Egypt with a renewed mind. As Africans, we need to come together, bury our differences, because genetically the differences are tiny. You know that the difference between an Ijaw and a Yoruba, it's less than 1%. So yeah, it's a big wake-up call for us in Nigeria, big wake-up call for humanity. We need to come together and start behaving in a far more human, compassionate way.
Now, Gloria, earlier on, you're talking about ways to avert this disaster. Now, let's take a look at proper town planning. How can this help to avert flooding in the nearest future?
Yes, thank you. Proper planning, such as drainage, good drainage, is a very effective way whereby so many, in my community, for instance, there are little drainages to all these things. But thank God I'm in a high terrain, so we don't usually experience flood here. But still, if there is a flood disaster, for instance, these drainages that are not in place, like having a gutter kind of thing, that is a drainage, it will really save. It will really save us from disasters like this in the future. Also, I was also thinking that this release of dams, can it be channeled like on the ground? There should be a way out, that it should not be on yearly basis. There should be some things that just channel it on the ground, that the water will be passing, but we may not really experience it. Or is there a way that we can channel it to insurgency area like in the Sambisa forest or something? I think that way we need to start looking more intense into this issue. The water is there for us. What about during the dry season? That we will be looking for water, we'll be looking for ways to actually cultivate our agricultural produce, and we know how. Can it be safe for the dry season? We can have more drainages. Why is it that always the dams, not drainage, the dams are getting damaged on yearly basis? Can't we create more dams?
These are a lot of questions just to avert this issue of overflooding in Africa generally, and even in Nigeria, where this has really been felt. Thank you so much, Gloria, for joining us on the conversation. And of course, Dr. Maja Kodumi for joining us on the conversation.
We appreciate your contribution and insights. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
These are topical issues going on in Africa, in Nigeria.
that we need to deal with. And thanks to our guests for highlighting and their expert analysis on the issue. You're watching a conversation on News Central Television. When we return, the United Arab Emirates has slammed a blanket ban, visa ban on 20 African countries, and the Dominican Republic, the only country outside Africa on that list. Why did they do this? We'll get to the answers and also ask more questions when we return from this break. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.